when you move to a new city and you have to start all your friendships from scratch. It don't be like that though. When you are in a really long relationship, a lot of people like don't really admit to themselves that even if you're like in love with this person, a part of your brain might be like, well, there's so many people out there, like I wonder what the rest of the pool is like. Like when I went through my breakup and I was literally in so much mental pain, even if it's bad, even if I'm like, what the f is happening right now, I at least come home with a story and I'll wake up the next day and I'll be like, who are half these people and when did this happen? I was hanging out with this guy last week. He asked me, he was like, what's your passion in life? And I was like, you didn't have to trigger my what the f am I doing on this planet crisis right now at f***ing 10 p.m. at this bar, but okay. Hi guys, how's everyone doing? How are you guys feeling? I'm excited to sit down with you guys and have a little chat. As you can probably tell from the title, today I just feel like I want to sit down with you guys and kind of like take you through what I've been thinking. Obviously, I just moved to a new city and I'm in my early 20s, and I feel like a lot of you guys that are watching my videos are kind of on the same boat as me. Definitely a thought-provoking transition period in my life. Moving to New York City, not really being in college anymore. It's like making me reflect on my life a little, and a lot of my vlogs are basically like an episodic documentary of me trying to figure out my life and like my 20s. Maybe you guys relate to some of these feelings if you're, you know, in your late teens, early 20s, still in your 20s trying to figure it out. It might like kind of feel like a therapy session. And also a lot of you have been asking me how I've been doing my makeup recently. So while I'm chit-chatting with you guys, I'm also gonna be getting ready. I'm actually getting lunch with this guy in like 2 hours. Never met him before. So yeah, it's also like to like distract me, I guess. But before we get started, I have some really important news. Obviously, the midterm elections are coming up in November, and these are really important elections, especially when it comes to climate change. In 2020, young voters showed up in record numbers, and based on a bunch of studies and surveys, young voters are the most motivated to take action about climate change. And because we applied that pressure on Congress, we were able to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which is like hands down the biggest investment into climate in US history. We made history in 2020, and we really need to keep it up for 2022. Like, the momentum is already on our side. So if you're a new voter, you just became eligible to vote, you just turned 18, or you've never voted in the past, you don't know where to start, it all seems a little bit complicated for you, don't worry, I have you guys. I like want to make this as simple as possible for everyone. I'm gonna leave a link for votefuture.org down below. You guys can click the link to see your registration status, your closest polling place. If you have friends that you know are gonna be too lazy to do this on their own, you can also help them out. It literally takes 10 seconds out of your day. In the wise words of Timothy Chalamet, societal collapse does really seem to be in the air these days. And as someone like navigating their 20s, climate change and like my future and how the planet is gonna look is something that's constantly on my mind. But it's not like we're doomed. Like, we have power in our hands. We have the power to put people in positions of leadership in Congress that actually care about the planet, and they care about making the planet a livable place for us and our kids in the future. We just have to be the ones to elect them. And for the midterm elections, the numbers are also on our side. There are a lot of people in Congress right now that really prioritize their personal gains and profit over anything climate related, and they keep blocking these attempts to pass these laws. We don't want those people there, so please click the link in my description box. It's just votefuture.org, and let's all be responsible citizens and show up at the midterm elections in November. You guys know I just became a citizen last year and I couldn't vote until now, and I would see all these people that could vote around me but just were refusing to because they just couldn't be bothered with it, and that makes me so frustrated. Now that I can vote, I like do it, as you should. So I'm leaving a link down below, click it. Let's save the planet, you guys. We really need to do this. Okay, let's start with some get ready steps. The first thing that I'm gonna do is apply my moisturizer. This is the Murad Essential C Daily Moisturizer, and it comes with SPF. Something that I've been doing ever since like entering my 20s is taking my skincare a little bit more seriously, because I know I'm young, I'm still 21, I'm about to be 22 in a month. Even though like my skin's doing great, it's fine. I know I'm still young. I like compare it to how my skin looked when I was like 16, 18, and yeah, it's not like that anymore. It's not like that anymore. When I go to bed with my makeup and I wake up in the morning, I do like wake up with breakouts, and like I feel like I was always on the luckier side genetically because of my skin, so that really probably wouldn't happen when I was younger. But yeah, now it like shows if I'm eating unhealthy or not drinking enough water. And I've been talking to a lot of like skin experts recently when I'm working with skincare brands, and the number one thing they all say is SPF. And I used to be like, oh yeah, SPF, yeah, we've heard it. I'll put it on when I remember. But now it's like a daily thing that I do. So yeah, apply your SPF every single day. I think it's like an investment into your future. I kind of want to break this series up into like different parts where I like focus on a certain topic. Like maybe I'll do skincare in your 20s for one of the segments, or I'll do like investing in your early 20s, or relationships in your 20s, boyfriends in your 20s, friends in your 20s, you know, like really dive into each of these topics like on their own. But for now, I kind of want this like starting segment to just be like a big dump of all these things that are running through my mind to give you a general gist of like where I'm at mentally. Gonna be priming with this MAC Strobe Cream. I've been using this to get that glowy like base underneath all my makeup recently. As you guys know, I moved into a new city, which honestly was one of the best decisions I made. And I would really encourage any of you who have the means, but maybe you're just like scared, you don't know anyone at this particular city that you want to move to, but you just kind of feel like the city that you live in right now, you've kind of like run out of the growth potential in there, which I don't really think that you can ever run out of growth potential, even if you've been in the same place for a long time. But moving to a new city definitely is a shortcut to kind of expediting that process, if you will. And I moved to one of the more intense cities, New York City. I'd always wanted to move here. I always knew I would somehow end up here, but it just was like a matter of time of like, okay, when am I ready? I did that whole Europe thing, and I actually filmed a video like breaking that experience down for all of you guys if you want to watch it. But now that I've moved on to this next chapter of my life, I'm like, wow, okay, it really happened. It's always something that I thought about. Now how do I make the best of it? And it's definitely a challenge because I moved here literally not knowing people. I knew my sister. I was really lucky with that because, you know, she's my roommate. We lived together and she'd already been here for a year. So it was kind of like a helping hand, I guess. But it's also like I had my like set friend group in LA. Like I had my people. These were people that I was like close to. Like I'd known them for years. Like these were people that I could go to their house and just sit in the couch and not talk to them for hours and like be on our phones and then leave, and it's not weird. Like we were comfortable being around each other even if we're not doing anything, you know? Like it's those really comfortable friends that you have around you that you don't even need to think about like what you're saying, what you're doing. You just be, you just are who you are. And those are some of like the best friendships. And when you move to a new city and you have to start all your friendships from scratch, it don't be like that though. It really don't. It takes a lot more effort. Like that's kind of what I'm realizing. Like I don't want to sit around alone. I like being social. I like being around people. I like having a big friend group and like things to do with them. But in order to get there, it's kind of like you're always like investing. You're like cultivating this friendship that you have with them, you know? Like you need to make lunch plans, you need to make dinner plans, you need to make plans to go out with them, which sometimes, even if you're surrounded by people, it can make you feel lonely because in some way it's like you need to put forth the best version of yourself to make a good impression because you really care about having this person in your life, or like getting to a point where you are close with them and you can just like sit around each other and like not really think about what you're doing, you know? How does one make friends when they're an adult in a new city? Like you don't have school to like, you know, meet people at. For me, like I don't have a job. Like I have a job, thank God. I just don't have those like community pockets. It's just kind of me floating around the city. So like what do you do? I like kind of knew of people that lived here, you know, but none of them, like the only thing that we had in common was we kind of crossed paths very briefly at some point in the past, and now we live in the same city. Like we don't really have any other mutual points. But still, like even if these are people that you don't really see yourself being super close with, reach out to people that you have in your vicinity because a lot of the time you meet other people through mutuals. Like you might not really vibe with this one person, but they invite you out and then you meet someone else in their friend group and you're like, wait, I actually vibe with you more. And then you have to like make that move of being like, wait, like we should totally grab lunch sometime. Oh my God, like every time I say this when I'm out, I'm like, it's not high school anymore. It's not college anymore. Like, I feel more adult. Like, yeah, like, let me put you in my calendar for lunch, you know? Like, okay, girl. Okay, you do that. We are very lucky to have social media in our hands. I met this girl, Ebru. She literally just slid into my DMs one day being like, let's be friends. And I was like, okay, let's do it, girl. So we got lunch, and now she's like my bestie in the city. And it's so weird that I like didn't even know her 2 months ago, you know? So just say yes to a lot of things. That's been one of the keys. I just say yes to a lot of things that come up in my life. Even if I'm like, I'd rather be at home chilling watching Netflix. I'm not saying like, you know, exhaust yourself, but you kind of do need to step out of that comfort zone, because you know you're gonna be comfortable at home chilling watching Netflix. You're not gonna have any awkward moments or social anxiety when you're doing that with yourself. But you're also not gonna give yourself the opportunity to maybe like meet someone that's gonna change the course of your life if you're just sitting at home on your couch. More than half the things that I say yes to don't really end up with any outcome, like no result. Like, wait, we hung out, or yes, I went to this party or this event, but I didn't really like meet anyone. Nothing special happened, and I would have had a better time sitting at home, but you'll never know until you actually go, which is the only part. Okay, this is a mini version, but this is the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter, and everyone and their mom raves about this, so I was like, okay, let me get it. I think I got in like a lighter shade, but the way that I use it is I just kind of like put it over my concealer in my under eyes, like this area that I want brightened. It's very, very light, and it just gives like a sheer glow over your makeup. I'll start under my eyes, and then I'll kind of like spread it around my face. The great thing about New York in comparison to LA is people actually are social. Like, it's so weird that LA is like the capital of social media, but no one likes being social. Everyone just like kind of likes sticking to their little clique that they have going on. If you go to a bar or if you go to a club, it's very rare that random people will like come up to you multiple times throughout the night being like, hey, like, where are you from? You know, if they do come up to you, they're just trying to like hook up with you, and it's usually just like guys looking for a one-night stand, but it's not really someone like trying to build a friendship with you at Bootsy Bellows, you know? But New York isn't like that. Every single time I go out, I come home with like 5 new people's numbers in my phone, and I'll wake up the next day and I'll be like, who are half these people and when did this happen? But the other times I'm like, oh my god, like, I remember this girl that I met last night, or like this guy that I met last night, and we really vibed. Like, I should make an effort to, you know, grab lunch with them or like make plans. With that comes, obviously, like every time I'm out, I meet a lot of guys, and I'm now in my single hot girl era phase. I'm not like going on these dates or like meeting these people trying to find my next boyfriend. Like, if anything, I'm doing the opposite of that. I want to be single because I feel like I was in a relationship for most of my teenage years, and I did build some amazing connections that really like taught me about myself. But the thing about like casual dating, where you're just like going on dates with a bunch of different people, when I say yes to some of these, I don't like think like, okay, does this guy like tick all my boxes? Does he have any red flags? Like, I really don't go into them like that. My friends will sometimes like judge me, being like, dude, like, why would you go on a date with that guy? Or like, oh my god, you could do so much better. And I'll be like, no, you guys, you don't get it. I'm meeting all these different personalities. I'm not trying to marry them. It's always a learning experience, even if it's bad. Even if I'm like, what the is happening right now, I at least come home with a story. My theme of the past few months has been do it for the plot, because I don't know, when you're in your older years, you want to look back and have these like funny stories and these like random things that happen to you that maybe like, you know, he wasn't your Prince Charming, but it's fine because you left with a funny story to tell your friends on FaceTime the next day. Another thing is like, sometimes I'll go on these dates and I'll meet this guy who I'm like, oh my god, like, I would be besties with you. We would be such good friends. I'm just not attracted to you. Like, that's what I'll think in my head. And a lot of their egos can't handle that. I've literally had guys be like, no, we're not gonna be friends. But it's fine. I literally do it for the plot. I think being single in your 20s is so valuable. I don't know, you just like learn so much. It also kind of like gets the curiosity out of you. I feel like when you are in a really long relationship, a lot of people like don't really admit to themselves that even if you're like in love with this person, a part of your brain might be like, well, there's so many people out there, like I wonder what the rest of the pool is like. Now you're not that curious. Now you're like more focused on like, no, I want to build something with someone. Or maybe you're like, you went through all these guys and you're like, wait, I love this type of humor in a guy, and I like this type of work ethic, and I like how confident this guy is. And you kind of like realize what exactly your boxes are, like what you like in a person that maybe like someone that you were with for so long, like you never even thought about them having that quality. But now that you've seen it in somebody else, you're like, wait, I'm actually really attracted to that. And the person that I want to be with in the future, like someone that I do want to commit to, has to have that. One person might not have all these boxes, but like eventually you might meet someone that does, and then you're like, okay, wait, they're the one. Or like they're someone I would actually want to be in a relationship with, like boyfriend material, you know? I'm gonna be using my Makeup by Mario nude eyeliner. I do this a lot to like brighten up my eyes. I don't know, I've talked about it before, but especially this one is very pigmented. I line my waterline with it. It just like makes your eyes look brighter, and I love it. I feel like I know a lot of people in long relationships that are very, very comfortable with their person, and sometimes you need to ask yourself, like, am I in love with this person, or am I in love with the comfort that I feel because I've been with this person for so long and they get me and they know me? That's something really valuable that is like really scary to give up. It feels risky to like end that just because you're curious. But if your mind is already kind of there and you're thinking about it, I feel like that only just starts snowballing and getting bigger and bigger. So yeah, sorry to break it to you ladies. And also like when I do go on all these dates, I like learn so much about all these other ways of living life. I'll meet a corporate guy and I'm like, okay, so like tell me more about the tech industry. Especially in LA, like all guys kind of were like doing the same thing. They were like trying to be a model, or they were in social media, and it's like everyone is surviving, but how are you guys doing this? Like no one really had like a real job. I'm not saying like doing those things aren't a real job, but it was just like, I don't know, being on the East Coast, people have 9-to-5s, and it's like there are different industries that weren't really around when I was living in LA. So whenever I go on these like random dates with random dudes and they're like telling me like, you know, actually, you know, I just started coding this, whatever they started coding. See, like I never would have really like found out about that stuff on my own. I'm using the L'Oreal Lash Paradise. I will say, no matter how many mascaras I use, I always go back to the drugstore ones because they just hit. They just hit. As I was saying, like all these people having like real jobs, they always ask me when I'm on the date, they're like, oh, like what do you do? And in LA, whenever people would ask me that, I'd be like, oh, you know, like I do social media, I'm a YouTuber, and it would just be like taken so like people get it, like they know what that's all about. It's not like something out of the blue for them. And obviously like people in New York get it, but I don't think they take it as seriously. Like it's something that I'd never really had to think about when I was living in LA. Like this is my job, this is how I make my money. I don't know, I wouldn't like reflect on it. And now that I'm here, I like see people like kind of like make a face when I tell them like I do social media, and they're like, oh, is that like what you do full time? And I'm like, you know, I sense them like judging me because, you know, being an influencer has such a like, a lot of the time a negative connotation around it. I feel like I've really detached the meaning of success from my profession, like what I do for work. I think now that I'm at a point where I'm financially like stable, I'm like, okay, wait, maybe I also kind of bought into that hustle culture, and I don't really care to be this boss lady, CEO, diva. I don't really care to be that anymore. Like I think I watched Devil Wears Prada way too many times that I thought like being that would make me happy. And even though I'm happy in like the sense that I'm comfortable, that's not like my driving factor to do better in life. I was hanging out with this guy last week. He asked me, he was like, what's your passion in life? And I was like, I took a second and I was like, oh my god, whoa, what a question to ask someone. You didn't have to trigger my what the f am I doing on this planet crisis right now at f***ing 10 p.m. at this bar, but okay. I talk to friends and I think a lot of them are also in the same boat in these like early 20s, and you really might feel like you're the only one because, you know, you might have other people around you that have figured out their passion or like what they want to do, like their purpose, and you feel like you might be alone. Like, oh, like everyone has like something that they're doing, like they have something going for them. I don't really know where I'm at, like where do I start? Like, am I behind in life? And I firstly want to say, I think like your purpose in life shouldn't really be what you do, like again, for work. We're really not supposed to be human doers, you know? Like our purpose in life, I don't think, is to come on this planet and like do things and then die. That's why we're called human beings, but we don't really get a chance to just be and vibe out and not do anything because we need to survive. I think in the past, like the discourse around your passion was definitely a lot more work oriented. Like whenever I would ask people like, oh, what do you want to do? They'd be like, oh, I want to be in fashion and I want to do this, you know? Like they always had this like scenario that kind of was like fed to us through some type of media outlet, some type of movie or show that would glamorize this lifestyle of like having your assistant grab coffee for you and like going to work in your high heels and like being this boss lady. Like now, based off of like a lot of new content that I'm seeing, like people are like, I don't want to work, I just want to vibe, like I don't want to do anything. And I think it's literally because people are realizing that like we were kind of like given the story as to what we should be doing in life. Some people are really lucky where they can do their passion and also survive off of it. I think those are some of the luckiest people, but not all of us are like that. So when we're constantly searching for our passion and purpose in the everyday job that we do, we get to this dead end, or like we get to this point of conflict where you might be like, what the do I do? And you feel really stuck. And I think that's really, really normal. I have been using, this is the Rose Ink Cream Bronzer, and I just like grab a little. Like I said, I'm about to turn 22 in a month, and I'm like, whoa, I'm already like 2 years into my 20s. Like time is flying by so fast, and I'm starting to like get these anxieties about growing older, and like I, you know, stress myself out about like, am I doing enough? Am I wasting my youth? Like these are supposed to be like just putting pressure on myself. Like, you know, everyone says 20s are your best years, like blah, blah, blah. Like the way that I like comfort myself is, this is gonna like be so random, but like imagine you're doing a 10-minute plank, okay? Those are your 20s, so like, okay. And right now, I'm only 2 minutes into this plank, technically. Like if I knew I had to do a 10-minute plank and I was 2 minutes into it, I literally would be like, oh my God, there's still so much time. Like this is gonna take forever. When you look at it proportionately, at 22, I'm only 2 minutes into this 10-minute plank. And also like time goes by the slowest when you're actually living it in the moment. Like when you're constantly like thinking about what's happening next or what happened before you, you're wasting the time that you have right now. So that's when like it all starts feeling like 1 week is one day, and like you can't really differentiate what you did last week versus like what's coming up, because like all the days feel like a blur, you know? I'm using my Charlotte Tilbury palette. I just kind of like mix these two colors, honestly. I would constantly ask myself like, am I happy right now? Like, am I doing good? Like I was pretty depressed during COVID. So now that I'm like not depressed anymore and I'm like doing well, there's always that anxiety of like, okay, like am I gonna fall back into depression? Like am I happy? Like am I doing good? Like constantly assessing like how I'm feeling. I used to always be chasing happiness. I feel like when you're constantly chasing happiness and you're comparing every moment that you're in and like your mood in that moment to a moment where you knew you were really happy, and seeing like, you know, I could be happier, you know, I'm not at peak joy right now. The moment that you're in and the feeling that you're in loses value. And also like you can't think of your mood as this 1 to 10 scale where 10 is really happy and sad is 1, and everything else in between is just like kind of like a ladder of you trying to get up there to that 10 out of 10 happy moment, because our emotions and our feelings are not on a linear scale. So this is the Revlon Skin Lights. This is also a bronzer, but there's like a lot of shimmer in it and it's a lot more lightweight. So I kind of like to layer this over the other bronzer that I used. I go off with bronzer. It's winter. I gotta make it look like I was in the Mediterranean somehow. And I think I've gotten very, very good at that. Like I'm not constantly chasing happiness. We're not meant to be happy at every moment of our lives. Like that's very unrealistic. And everyone says like, oh, like what's your purpose in life? It's like, oh, like to be happy. That's not how life really works. And I think a lot of people have been saying this, and this has definitely been the theme of my life in the more recent years. I'm honestly just looking to be content. I just want to be content with where I am. Like, it's kind of like a more wholesome, neutral feeling that you carry throughout your day. And then there are moments of sadness and there are moments of happiness, but it only is just another way of experiencing life. Like when I went through my breakup and I was literally in so much mental pain that it was like reflecting onto my body as physical pain. Like past Hailey, who judges how well their life is going based off of how happy they are in that moment, would probably look at those moments and be like, wow, like my life sucks right now. There's literally no value to it. And now, like my most recent breakup that I went through and I was like really sad, I was like, wow, like I didn't even know I was capable of feeling such deep emotions, whether they be, you know, good or bad. Forgot to put mascara in my bottom lashes. But basically what I was saying is your emotions are not on a linear scale. It's more so like a canvas, and sometimes you're gonna paint really happy strokes and sometimes you're gonna paint really angry strokes. And as the artist of this canvas, the only thing that I've really been focusing on is I just want to be content while I'm holding this paintbrush. The masterpiece that you have at the end when you're dying is gonna be really boring if you were so being like cautious about how you wanted the masterpiece to look at the end. The process of painting it is what's supposed to be fun. That was like a really big metaphor to life and emotions that kind of like made it kind of like click for me in my head. I also love how I'm doing my makeup while doing this because it's cute, you know? It's like goes with the theme. That was like the general gist of everything that I wanted to get out there for you guys. And I also want to show you guys some of the last few steps of my makeup routine because I want to show you guys what else I do to get that glowy look, because I think these next steps really make the difference for me. I've been using the Ciate Dewy Stick, and I don't want to call this a cream highlighter. It more so just feels like illuminating balm. Like, wow, that literally sounded like a synonym. I don't know. Here, like, let me show you. There's no pigment on it. It's more so just like, literally they picked the perfect name for it. Dewy Stick. And I put it here. As you can see, it doesn't like really give pigment. It just more so creates this really pretty like dewy base. Like it's like creamy, so when the light hits it, it like shines on its own, but it also creates the perfect base for the powder highlighter that I use. This palette that I've literally had for 4 years. I really need to get a new one, but it's my favorite highlighter. As you can tell, almost like goes a little too crazy. Also, what I've been doing is I've been putting highlighter right here because I think it adds a little glow, and the powder highlighter kind of just like sticks to the cream highlighter and then makes it last longer. It almost looks a little too intense, and then I go back in and I kind of like blend it with my finger. I also put some on my brow bone. Yes. Something else that I've been doing is I used to do this like in 2018 and I brought it back. I have been putting a little bit of highlighter, like dragging it halfway through my lower lash line, and it just like really brightens up my eyes. And then I'll grab some, add a little extra right here, add a little extra on my nose. Whatever's left over goes on my Cupid bow. Yes, we love. And then just gonna be setting my brows with a brow gel. And then I've been lining my lips a lot. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk that you've probably heard of it once or twice. And then I'll color it in. And then I'm gonna be using Miss Bieber's Rhode Lip Tide. You guys might know this one, like the Allure Lip Product Beauty Award, and I really do think it deserves it. First of all, it tastes amazing, like a watermelon, and it gives the best glow without feeling sticky. The only thing is, any tube, anything I own, always ends up exploding at some point in its life. And I think it would just be a lot better if maybe it was like in this type of packaging, like it had a wand. If their PR team is watching this, that's like what me and everybody else that's used this product would probably recommend for your guys' next drop. And then I set everything with my MAC setting spray. And yeah, that is how I've been doing my makeup for the past few months. It's been working for me, and I'm gonna be linking all the products that I use in the description box down below. And thank you for coming to my therapy session. I know we got really kind of deep towards the end of it. These are just some things that have been running through my mind, and every time I like get it all out there, I feel a lot more like relieved and better about myself. And I know that a lot of these things, everyone around these ages are going through, so hopefully hearing some of this could just make you feel a little bit more comfortable with where you're at, like you're not alone. And if there's anything that, you know, you'd want to add to this conversation, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. And also, don't forget to click the link in the description box down below to register to vote or find your closest polling place, because the 2022 November midterm elections are very, very important, especially when it comes to taking action against climate change. So yeah, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I love you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. I love you guys so much, all the way to Pluto and back. Bye.